Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Flosstube channel. My name is Jessie Lee, and I'm coming at you with video number 35. I have been missing from Flosstube for over a month now, and I was a bit concerned that I would come back to my channel and find that I had nobody left to make videos for, but I looked at my subscriber count, and y'all are still here. Thank you for being so patient with me. You guys are such loyal, wonderful friends. I have been gone for so long because in October, I spend a lot of time sewing my kids' Halloween costumes, and between sewing and my college classes, I just didn't have a lot of time to cross-stitch or make floss tubes. But now that Halloween is over, I should have more time to stitch, and hopefully I'll get to make videos more often for you guys. So I will not keep you waiting, and right away I will show the little bit of stitching that I have gotten done. All right, so aside from celebrating Halloween in October, Tim and I also celebrated our 12th wedding anniversary. So I had to bring out my whip of Through the Storms by Silver Creek Samplers. This pattern is so cute and so meaningful. I was inspired to stitch it by Stitch Again Sam. She completed this one for her and her husband probably a little over a year ago now. And it says, "No relationship is all sunshine, but two people can share one umbrella and walk through the storms together." I just think that's sweet, and it reminds me of Tim and I. We've been together since I was 16 and he was 15, so not only have we been together for 12 years of marriage, we also spent our growing up years together, and as you can imagine, we've been through quite a lot, but we've always stuck with each other. And another thing I noticed is that this pattern happens to sort of be the antonym for the shirt I'm wearing today. Let me just show you because I think it's funny. My shirt is a dry desert, and it says, "Feel the sunshine." So yeah, that's just something I noticed and thought it was goofy, but it's not important. Anyway, here's my whip. This last time I had to sit down and work on it, I put in the clouds up here, and they are so puffy and adorable, and the variegation of the floss in there is also really pretty. I'm stitching this with most of the Called Floor fancy flosses, except for a couple substitutions. The dark part of these clouds was supposed to be Garden Gate by the Gentle Art, but that was not available at all when I went to kit this up, so I replaced it with Tin Bucket, which is also by the Gentle Art. And I like how my color substitution looks. So here it is up a little closer again. And the fabric I am using for this is called Olympia. It's 32 count, and it's by Mystic Fabrics. And in real life, the modeling is a lot more contrasty, and the fabric's really pretty. It looks exactly like a cloudy sky, so it's just perfect for this. My margins here are kind of small, but that's a problem for future Jessie Lee. Anyway, I am going to work on this one more steadily. I really wanted this done this year, so the dates on the bottom would look really fancy and cool. 2022 goes really well with our wedding anniversary date, which is October 22nd. So even though I'll finish this one in 2023 probably, I'm still going to put 2022 in the little puddle just because there's no stitching police and I can do what I want. So anyway, this is Through the Storms by Silver Creek Samplers, and it's going well. I also managed to get a decent amount of work done on my alphabet sampler. This is the design. It is called A is for Ellipsis, and it's by Doreen Jones. And here is mine. I am stitching this for my baby niece Rhea, and I will sew it into a tote bag that I'm going to fill with books and give to her for her first Christmas this year. I'm so excited to go to my in-laws for Christmas and finally meet the special baby girl. She is absolutely adorable. So the last time I showed this to you, I had the star done with no backstitch. So as you can see, I put in the backstitch on the little star and also got the teapot and umbrella completely done. And then I recently got the crosses done for the vase. It is just waiting for its backstitch. And I am stitching this on 32 count line Lugana with all of the called for floss, except I substituted black in the text for a dark green. And I have something cool to talk about and show with you. Mary Ellen, the one from whom I stole the idea to stitch the text in dark green, sent me an email showing her A is for ellipsis that she stitched for her grandson. So I will show you that picture. Her sampler is beautiful and so cute, and she made a few changes to it, which I really enjoy seeing. Her daughter and son-in-law are vegan, so she changed the egg into an eggplant. And she also switched up a few of the colors throughout the sampler, and she also changed the faces on some of the little characters in there. And I think her faces are really cute. This is such a special project, Mary Ellen. Thank you for sharing with me. I love your creativity and the changes you made. The changes you made helped me out because it's because of you I decided to use the dark green floss for my text, and it looks super nice. And Mary Ellen shared with me that her current grandkid project is a Christmas stocking, which I think will be so special. They will cherish that stocking forever. And it inspired me to show you the Christmas stocking that my own grandma made for me. So here is my stocking that she did. Unfortunately, it got stored folded in half for a few years, so it's got some wrinkles in it, but this is the stocking that my grandma, Bernice, who I share about all the time on my channel, stitched for me when I was little. She hand stitched all these little sequins, and it's got the little felt appliques. It's all made out of felt. And I love this stocking. I've put it out every single year of my life. So yeah, just handmade crafts from family are oh so special, and I'm happy to be passing that tradition along by stitching up this little alphabet sampler for my niece. And of course, I've faithfully been working on my temperature butterflies by Sarah Hughes, the Stitchin' Mommy. Here they are. They are looking super bright today because I happen to be recording this video during the day for once. But these are my temperature butterflies. And as you can see, I got the October butterfly done. It is one of my favorites. I love how the colors turned out on that one. So far, we've been having a relatively warm autumn. So that's been pretty nice, and it made for a really beautiful butterfly in October. And the other thing I stitched was the black outline of the November butterfly. I stitched all of the butterfly outlines up until November, towards the beginning of this year, and then I just kind of stopped stitching the black because it's not very fun to stitch black on black, but I was sort of forced to get back to it, and I managed to put in the November outline for the butterfly and have that ready to go. So I am still really happy with how these are looking, as wild and neon as they are. I'm stitching my butterflies on 28 count black Lugana with the brightest colors of DMC Light Effects and DMC Satin Flosses. This was a design choice born of laziness because I did not want to have to stitch the outlines of all of the cells on the wings. So I decided I would stitch this on black fabric so I could just do the colors and have the outlines show through as negative space. So I just decided that the natural complement to black fabric would be neon flosses because I spent my childhood in the heyday of Lisa Frank. So these are my temperature butterflies, and I love them. They're so much fun, and I'm going to be sad when this year is over and they won't be my temperature pattern for the year anymore. Because we are nearing the end of the year, I was thinking about how I would finish off this piece. On all of my temperature stitches, I create a little scale of my colors for the temperatures on the bottom so you understand the meaning of the piece and kind of can read what each day's temperature was. So I was coming up with a cute way to put in that temperature scale, and I was sort of doing some doodling on graph paper for how I want it to look. I decided for each color I am going to do a little caterpillar, and I'm going to put them all in a row with the caterpillar looking like it's inching along, and then I will put in numbers for the temperatures on the scale. So I just doodled out how it would look step by step, and then I came up with the actual pattern with the number of squares and how they're going to look. So this is just my rough draft of my idea of how I'm going to put in the scale on the bottom of my piece when it is all done. So it looks really rough, and I'm embarrassed that this is how I sketch stuff out for cross stitch. I am just old school and use graph paper, but this is my idea. Speaking of caterpillars, I really wanted to show you guys the caterpillars I've been knitting recently for the bedtime bags that I'm putting together for charity, because I've actually managed to get a handful of new caterpillars done. But I brought my knitting basket with me to school one day and left it in the car. And then Tim took the car today because he had a work training to go to. So yeah, my knitting's stuck in the car and I don't have it, so I can't show you today. I'm sorry, but I have been working on the knitting and I'm super excited to show you the caterpillars next time because they're so cute. Anyway, I do have one more embarrassing graph paper doodle of mine to show you, because I've been thinking ahead for next year's temperature cross stitch that I want to do, because I've just decided to keep it as my tradition. Every year I'm going to stitch on a temperature pattern. So for 2023, I was thinking of coming up with my own temperature design, just for myself, because I only draw patterns and cross-stitch doodles on graph paper. I would have no idea how to share my own design with any of you if you guys did happen to like it, so I'm really sorry about that. But what I have been working on is something that's fairly simple and not that clever, I think. But what I want to do for my temperature piece next year is a row of clouds with raindrops coming out underneath them. So each cloud will represent a month, and it'll have little individual raindrops to represent each day of the year. And of course, each raindrop will be a different color to represent the temperature. So I was sort of doing a little bit of work on graph paper to come up with the design, and here is part of it. This was a little experiment of different raindrop shapes and just the spacing I would want between them. I really liked this raindrop shape up until I just got looking at it too long and decided it sort of looks like a hand flipping the bird. Yeah, so that one is out, and I think I really like these little raindrops that sort of have their little ploops up at the top facing different directions. I like that alternating design because I think it'll kind of look a little more interesting and be less boring to stitch through an entire year. So I was kind of just experimenting with the spacing of that. I decided against this little fat design of raindrops because just they sort of read more like snowballs or something. But I also like these if I wanted to do just straight raindrops and not have sort of the alternating shapes. I think this very basic design is kind of nice. I do like the spacing of that too. So yeah, just me experimenting with different raindrop shapes. I think my favorites are this or this. So you guys can let me know what you think looks good, because I spent more time than I'd like to admit drawing all these up for my little experiment. So give me your opinion, what you think looks best. And then I also came up with how I would like to configure all of the raindrops day by day across the page. So this would, each one of these sections would be a month, and this is how each individual raindrop would sort of be aligned in the pattern. So, and then at the top here, I would have clouds. So this is just a very mini design, just figuring out how to align each day. So yeah, that's just a little grid I came up with to represent January, February, March, April, and so on, and just the different heights of each section and how the raindrops kind of are staggered on the bottom. I hope that makes sense, but this is just a rough draft of the overall layout of what the raindrops might be. And then I'm just going to have to make some clouds and actually put the raindrops underneath them. And there's just a lot more to do on this design, but it's just an experiment and something that I'm trying to come up with. And unless I happen to find a ready-made design out there that I'm absolutely in love with, and I'll do that instead. I don't know, but this has just been a little rough draft and experiment of an idea I have in my head for next year's temperature piece. So let me know what you think of it, and don't laugh at me for using graph paper for everything like a noob. My next door neighbor just started mulching the leaves in his yard with a lawnmower. I really hope you can't hear that in the background of this video, and if you can, I'm super sorry. That's just a disadvantage of recording during the day. Noise. Especially with this neighbor, because I've nicknamed him Mr. Immaculate because he keeps his yard looking like a golf course. Seriously, he is out there every single day working on something, and he's just so meticulous with his lawn. And he is a really nice neighbor, but I do feel guilty he has to live next door to us because our yard is a mess. Anyway, I am through with the cross-stitch things I had to share with you this time, and I'm sorry that it wasn't a whole lot, but as I said, most of my hobby time in October was spent sewing my kids' Halloween costumes, and I was really happy with how they turned out, and I'd love to show them to you. So let me scoot over and pop in a picture. My kids dressed up as the Pokemon Sylveon and Umbreon. Sylveon is the pink and white one, and Umbreon is the black and gold one. My daughter Sylvia is currently obsessed with Pokemon because she's being indoctrinated into geekdom by her father, and her favorite Pokemon is Sylveon, both because it's cute and because its name sounds a lot like her name. So Sylvia asked me for a Sylveon costume for Halloween, and Glenn is just happy to dress up in a costume, so he was perfectly satisfied dressing up as Umbreon in order to coordinate with his sister. Umbreon and Sylveon are both evolutions of the Pokemon Eevee, so that's how the two costumes go together. And I had a pretty good time sewing these costumes. It was not a frustrating experience at all. These are some of the less complicated designs that I've done. And it was also a valuable experience for me because it was my first time ever using Heat and Bond. Heat and Bond is a iron-on adhesive that is used to fuse pieces of fabric together. It is used a ton in applique for quilting, so I know you quilters out there are totally shaking your heads at me for having never used this stuff in all of my years of sewing. My mom taught me to sew when I was about 8 years old, but I just never had a project where I used it. But now that I have used it and have realized how awesome it is, I'm really kicking myself for not having discovered it when I made this costume for Glenn a couple years ago. I sewed all the individual stripes on this cat costume, and it was a nightmare. And it's a testament to how silly I am for not being more informed about the tools out there that were available to me, such as Heat and Bond. But I guess it's also a testament to how much I love my kid to go through the pain in the ass that it was putting each of those 40 or so stripes on this costume. I was super happy with how the kids' costumes turned out. As I said, I used the Heat and Bond to put the gold rings on Glenn's costume. Umbreon, I think, is traditionally yellow and black, not gold and black, but I just thought using some shiny gold would spruce up the costume and make it a little bit more special for Glenn. And then I also used the Heat and Bond on the ribbons on Sylvia's costume. I wanted the Sylveon costume ribbons to be authentically striped like the character's design is. So I sewed stripes with satin fabric and then cut out 2 strips of the striped satin that I had made and then fused them together with the Heat and Bond. So that's how that worked. And like I said, both of these costumes were super fun, pretty simple to make. I got their ears to stand up using an actual like Easter bunny eared headband inside each costume. So those actually went through the hood into the ears, and then on the inside of the hood was the headband that the kids put over their heads so they could pose their ears sticking up. And yeah, they were really fun costumes. The one thing that did stink about them was I chose to use this super soft, velvety, fleecy fabric similar to Minky, and that stuff shed everywhere. Oh my goodness. Every time I would cut it or just move it, anytime any raw edges were exposed, fuzz would just come pouring out everywhere. It's still in my room here and there, even though I've cleaned in here so many times. Every time I sit down in here to do homework or cross stitch and I move something around on my desk, a little fluff will come flying out that's been hiding somewhere. I think I will have some lint from those dang costumes in this room for as long as I live here. It will just never go away, no matter how much I clean. That stuff just escaped. It's like tribbles. Like they just never end. So anyway, that was the one bad choice I made with the costumes. The fabric feels so nice and looks really cool in real life. They were so cozy and warm and just fuzzy and tactile and fun. I didn't want to just go with boring polar fleece for the costume, so I did choose that fuzzy fabric, but there will be lint in this craft room for all time. Anyway, the kids' costumes went over great while they were trick-or-treating. Several times other kids pointed at them and were really excited because they recognized that they were dressed up as Pokemon, which was so rewarding to me that people actually knew that their costumes were Sylveon and Umbreon. And it meant a lot to Sylvia too, because she really loves Sylveon so much. So for other kids to know that she and Glenn were Sylveon and Umbreon was really cool for her. And this was actually our first year trick-or-treating in our own neighborhood. We've lived here since 2019, but in all the past years, we've gone trunk-or-treating instead. Trunk-or-treating is when local churches or businesses will have members park their cars in the parking lot and decorate their cars in some kind of Halloween theme, and then you have your kids go from car to car to trick or treat and receive candy. And we've been doing that for the past few years, but this year we decided to trick or treat in our own neighborhood, and our neighborhood had quite the turnout. There were tons of groups of kids out on the sidewalk, to the point that I actually only went trick or treating with Tim and the kids for one block before I decided to run home so I would be available to answer the door for any trick-or-treaters that came to our house. And we do actually decorate our yard with some Halloween decorations and lights, so that did attract quite a few trick-or-treaters, so I'm glad that I was at home to give them candy, and it was so much fun to see all the adorable kids in their costumes. It was a really fun Halloween. Glenn and Sylvia got tons of candy. They're at an age now where they really have the stamina to walk a ways and knock on lots of doors, so they had a fantastic time. I think our trunk or treating days are over. Trick-or-treating in our own neighborhood is the way to go for sure. Another highlight of my October besides Halloween was my birthday celebration. I turned 36 on October 6th, and to celebrate, Tim took me to our local petting zoo during the day when my kids were at school, so it was just us getting to visit the animals. And usually I'd feel pretty iffy about a petting zoo because they tend to not be the most humane, but the one in our town is a bit different. They set up in our local mall, of all places, just this past spring. So they are a new place, and we found out about them because they had a few volunteers bring a couple animals to visit my son's special ed summer school class. So Glenn and his classmates got to pet a groundhog, a fox, and a possum, and learn about them in class. And his teacher sent out some really sweet pictures of the kids enjoying the animals, and I thought it was super nice that this petting zoo volunteered to give them that experience. So I went and looked the place up and did a little bit of research, and their facility looked really cool. So that's where Tim took me for my birthday. And this place was amazing. Every animal had an amazing, spacious habitat with a lot of enrichment. The goats there had a huge jungle gym to climb on, and there were rope pulleys with dishes that you could use to actually put feed in for the goats and then use the pulley to feed the goats way up high in their jungle gym. You could tell the goats loved it. They were climbing all over the place. Every animal had plenty of space to get away from any visitors if they wanted to. They weren't forced to have food shoved in their face all day. They had places in their habitat where they could go to get privacy if they wanted to. The place was immaculately clean. It didn't even smell like animals at all. And every staff member that we saw along the way was either cleaning or doing some kind of animal care. They were all busy. They're all super nice too. And it was just a fascinating place. Ooh, even the feed that they gave us to give to all the animals was a mixture of really big pellets that looked better than like the tiny little dry things that you usually see at a petting zoo. They had like a big oat pellets and some fresh vegetables and fruits in there too. So I felt like you were actually feeding the animals something nutritious and good for them. It wasn't just junk that is used for your entertainment. It was just the best petting zoo really that I've ever seen. And they had a huge variety of animals that were really fun to see. They had goats, like I said, capybaras, a few different species of deer. Like they had a little muntjac deer that was super cute. And they had some pigs and some small zebu cows and some porcupines, little kangaroos. What else did they have? I saw prairie dogs. They had a few different reptiles, and they also had possums. And there was an option to pay extra to get to hold a possum. So I got to hold a possum. It was one of the most unforgettable experiences of my entire life. Possums are one of my very favorite animals. I just love them. And I got to hold one at this place. They had possums who had been rescued by wildlife rehabs but weren't able to be returned to the wild. So the one that I got to hold was named Ben. He was super gentle and sweet and sleepy. We had woken him up because he's a nocturnal creature. And by the end of my holding session with him, he was falling asleep on my shoulder. He just hunkered down and made himself comfy and was falling asleep on me, which was so cute. He was so fluffy. I never knew that a possum would be so soft. His fur felt very fluffy and just soft like fox fur. And he was so gentle and sweet. He didn't mind me touching his little nose and like holding his little possum handies. Even his little hands were so soft. And he kept yawning because he was tired. So he was showing me all of his 50 teeth, which was a little intimidating. Possums have, I think, some of the most teeth out of any other mammal. And he did try to bite me twice, but it was not an aggressive bite at all. He came in very slowly towards my finger with his mouth open, and I think it was totally because he expected me to give him a treat. So, whoops. Sorry, Ben, I don't have a treat for you, but he did not mind me holding and petting him, and like I said, he was starting to fall asleep on me, which was so cute. He was a precious creature, and this is our local petting zoo, and basically I can just save a little bit of money and pay to hold a possum whenever I feel like it. That is an awesome option to have in life, I think. I am just really grateful for that experience that I got to have on my birthday. And like I said, that was just a highlight of my past month, if not a highlight of my life. And yeah, I'm just so grateful. That was super fun to do for my birthday. What else? The rest of my life has been going pretty well. Tim and the kids are just fine. Glenn and Sylvia are enjoying second grade. Glenn especially is having a fantastic school year, which I'm really thankful for, because with special ed, you just gotta kind of take it year by year and see if things go all right. And this year they're going great. So I am super happy for Glenn. And Sylvia, social butterfly that she is just having a party every day at school with her friends. So that's nice for her. Tim is happy at home with me and the kids, but when he goes to work, he's been kind of having an intolerable time, and I think he may possibly be looking for a change soon, which would be an interesting life adjustment. But if that's what's best for Tim, that's what's best for all of us. He deserves to work in a place that makes him happy and not too stressed. As for me, my college classes are going fine. I'm plugging away, doing really well in all my classes, although they are pretty tedious and very time consuming. There was a point where I had a little meltdown to Tim about how much I missed having free time and how huge my mental load felt at one point, but I have gotten into a groove with my classes. I have a little routine for how I sit down and get all my classwork done, and it's going pretty well. I'm doing all of my classes online, except there is one class that I go into 1 day a week in person, and that's one of my polysomnography classes. I'm still super excited about the polysomnography program, and I've gotten to know my teacher. He's the director of the whole program and teaches all of the polysomnography classes. So I will be with him until I get my associate's degree. And his name's Vlad. He is super funny and nice and supportive, and I've enjoyed getting to know him in my in-person class, as well as my classmates. It's just a fun little human interaction that I get to have once a week. So that's a pretty cool part of school. And I'm still just super grateful for the opportunity and for Tim's and the kids' support. And yeah, I'm just plugging along, doing my best, and I'm still invested. I'm registered for my spring semester classes, and I think next semester will be a little more interesting and a little less tedious and time consuming. So I'm really looking forward to that. But school's going great for me. Life is good. And I hope life is good for all of you too. I really miss interacting with you guys. You're my buddies. I miss reading your comments on my videos. Please give me a life update. Please tell me about what you guys are stitching on. You guys are some of my favorite friends because you guys share creative hobbies with me, and I love cross stitch. I just love all of this stuff, and I just appreciate you guys. Thank you for being my support and my niche little club that I have here. And thank you so much for sticking around with me and being patient and remaining my subscribers so I can continue to share with you, even though it's going to be a bit more intermittent. But I do promise that my next video will be sooner than like a month and a half from now because again, I have those Halloween costumes off of my back, so I can get back to focusing more on cross-stitching in the time that I have for my hobbies. So I will be back soon, I promise. In the meantime, God loves you, and I love you, and happy stitching. Bye-bye.